Thanks to EA Sports FC, we have been invited down to Brentford's training ground to talk to the man that has masterminded the success of Brentford in the Premier League. Thomas Frank, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with me. So this is the plan. We've got the tactics board in front of us, which I reckon you know your way about the tactics board. What we're going to do is we're going to throw some match scenarios at you, and we're going to see how you're going to react. Sound good?
Sounds good. I'm on.
And obviously, you guys are the red team, not the blue team.
Of course, yeah.
So let's dive into this. Scenario 1, the opposition manager making a lot of changes. So I did want to ask you, first of all, in terms of your bandwidth as a manager, both before a game and during a game, how much are you thinking about substitutions?
I got a plan A, and a plan A is everything going to the perfect game plan I've made. Sure. Okay, it's always perfect.
We've got one of those scenarios.
It's the players who I can't swear who destroy it. Okay, and in that plan A, I got 5 subs planned. Not that I want to sub out 5, but I'm a big believer of keeping the intensity and the pressure. I know players can play 90, of course, they're fit enough to that, but sometimes it's good to bring a new energy in. So that's plan A, we're leading, for example.
Right.
Then there can be a plan A, B. It's a draw, and we wanna push a bit more.
Yeah.
So that could just be like for like change. So let's say we got the 2 wingers, let's say that, and the striker, and one of them are not performing, a little bit down. Then that could be enough. Mm-hmm. But more likely it is I want one more offensive player in. So let's say we played with a 6 and 2 8s, and one of the 8s are more offensive than the other, and then we take the more defensive out and put another one in that's more offensive. So that's the plan A, B. Mm-hmm. Then I got a plan B if we are 1-0 down and it's not going the right way. And that's always with 3, but it's not 3 centre backs. Most of the time be 1 or 2 and a midfielder. And instead of a 6, it's maybe an 8 that's even better on the ball. And it's maybe 2 10s, if that makes sense. Then it's 2 strikers, and then it's 2 wingers.
Right.
So more offensive players on the pitch.
Okay. In terms of sort of areas of the pitch then, and maybe you're sort of counteracting what your opposition manager is going to do you think generally you feel like you know what's coming, or are there certain areas of the pitch where you see more substitutions than other places? I think traditionally, often you would see your centre-backs would play the whole game, whereas your wingers might get substituted out. Is that something that comes into your thinking in dealing with the opposition's
So what they do?
Yeah.
If it's like for like positions, we of course inform the players, okay, this player is more offensive, very good on the turn, or fantastic 1v1 player, or pace. So that's a little bit information about that. If we don't think it changed too much in their structure, then there's no reason to give more input.
Right.
So it's more when they change system, or they change the way they want to build, because we probably practice the pressure against maybe 3 or 4 or whatever, or 2-3 or whatever they do. So it's more if they change that structure, that's the irritating bit. Yes. Because it's difficult to get across to the players. That's the bit that can make it more tricky, because we practice something in the pressure. That could be more difficult.
Let's move that along. Mm-hmm. So it was 3-0, they've made some changes and they've got a couple of goals back. Mm-hmm. So you're 1 goal up, there's 10 minutes to go. What do you do in that scenario?
As a mindset thing or mental thing, if we got offensive set pieces, you see a lot of teams, they're 1-0 up, 5 minutes to go, that they keep 3 back. Mm-hmm. Even if the opponents only have 1 up. We never do that. We believe that we can score. Of course, that let's say they have 2 down here, and then they have 1 up, and then we maybe have 6 in the box, and then we probably just have 2 on the edge. So a lot of teams, when they put 1 up, we just go man-man.
Right.
I back us to win the ball here and keep it up, where they have 1 less, and then it'll give us an advantage. And if it happens, then we just need to sprint back, because if we know if we score there, the game's dead.
Right.
So that's a mindset, and we always go for that. Always still want to press high.
In FC 25, there's a lot of players that could help in this scenario. You've got Ethan Pinnock, whose play style is aerial ability. You've got someone like Norgard, whose play style is intercept. What attributes are you after against a team that, for whatever reason, is sort of naturally in the ascendancy of having the ball a little bit more than yourselves?
Yeah, because they're going for that goal to equalize the game. Yeah. We tend to still keep 2 strikers that can run the other way. I'd like to have an offensive player, but of course, that's the balance we do. Sometimes Sometimes if I can see, okay, we can't get out of it, then I change to a 3-5-2 because I know we're so good there.
When you're saying you're so good, do you mean in winning your duels? There's a lot of talk about that word duels.
Yeah, winning duels, defending low, closing down the opponents, normally not giving too much away. So that's why sometimes we change to that. Plus, you know that they will try to commit more players in the box and we just have one extra player in there.
Next scenario.
Yeah.
Your record in terms of having players sent off for your team is really, really, really good.
I'm
over
happy
the
with
last
that.
few years, you've kept it really, really low.
Yeah.
2 players sent off in the entirety of last season. 1 player sent off in the season before that, and 3 players the season before that. Obviously, you don't want to lose a player, but is there anything that you think about when it comes to sort of having 10 men? There was 2 times that happened last year. The first time, and it's 2 different scenarios for it actually. 8th minute against Burnley, Reguilon gets sent off.
Yeah.
What did you do in that moment?
So we were in a 4-3-3 in that game. Instead of whatever, we continued in a 4-3-2. So big believer of having 2 strikers on or 2 offensive players. So we also can go the other way and try to score goals. So again, the offensive mindset, that's always the first thing we're thinking about. With all due respect to Burnley, it's also a team where we thought that, okay, we could maybe do something here. If a team is so superior that maybe City would be, because this has been my go-to, because I think we have one more to play with. On the counters, that's the main thing. The downside is that how do you close down the sides, because you only in reality have maybe 2 and you need to come out here, so there's a little bit struggle over here, but most likely he's helping down there, the striker. But if we face City that are that good, probably we'll go to a 5-3-1 because we need that.
And this 18-yard line, is
Yeah.
that a real sort of marker for you in terms of someone watching a game of football next time they watch it and understanding, I guess, the distances between that defensive line? Is that something that plays a part, the 18-yard box?
Yeah, it's a good reference point in terms of how deep you want to drop. So you don't want to drop too deep, but it depends also a little bit where is the ball, if this is the ball. Where is the ball? Because of course, if he's going like here, we can't. There's a big space where the ball can be played under.
Yeah.
So it depends a little bit. Where we probably would be a little bit deeper like this. So we don't want any balls under us because I think that's the most important thing to defend. In general, that's one of our principles. But then when the goal goes backwards, the first reference point is always the 18-yard box. So we pump up to here.
Let's talk about fast forwards. There's so many in the Premier League this season. Erling Haaland, his pace rating on FC25 is 88. Ollie Watkins is 85. What kind of plan do you put in place when you've got a centre forward up against you who can run like that?
If we play against a fast forward or a fast player when we are man-man, the big thing here, I say to my players, I think we in general do quite well. And of course we have conceded a goal or 2 in this way. But we scored, let me put it this way, we scored more than we conceded, and we created way more chances than we conceded. So that's why I continue. Let's say the keeper got the ball, and we had a fantastic situation against Brighton a few years ago where they just played a ball in behind and run down and scored. But before that and after that, we want to have a little bit distance. So if it's played into feet, it's easier than to put pressure. Then we are so tight that we don't want him to get it into feet and then just do that movement and get in behind, and then we never catch him. Right. So in these situations, I always tell my, let's say, centre backs or full backs, whoever is here, give yourself a little bit of space, also depending on the players. Some are, of course, complete, where they are technically fantastic and quick as well, so that's tough. So we don't want them to get it. But we need to remember that if this is a pass over 40, 50 yards, it's still a good chance it can be a little bit bouncing, or then it's difficult, then you can win it on the touch, where they take a touch and then you can win it. But in general, keep a little bit of distance, so when you start his run and you're not as quick, you just need to anticipate it quicker and then you still get there in those situations. And this is the most dangerous situation where we are high on the pitch. Lower down on the pitch, of course, is a little bit different. They don't use the pace as much. It's a little bit about timing, and we can read that. So if there's no pressure on the ball and there's a run, we need to drop. If there is pressure on the ball, we can hold the line, for example.
How do you view the 3/3 of the pitch, which again is another bit of a sort of language that people talk about a lot?
This third, I actually break it into a half when we go in high pressure, when it's a goal kick or back to the keeper, or when we, there it's clearly man-man. So I try to give my players principles
Yes.
or guidelines. So how can they on the pitch, what do they look, or what reference points do they have, or principle or guidings, so they can do what we think is the best way to do it. So up here, when the ball go here, we need to log on man-man. But that can be a little bit tricky when you are in this middle third here. Is it a high pressing situation, or do we need to be a little bit more zonal? So here we're more zonal, it's all about the distances. So that's what we do here, and also lower. But when is it that we then go to high pressure? Back to keeper, clear. But when is it that we really want to jump? So if the ball is played here, is it now? Is that a good option for us to jump if the distance is right? Okay, maybe we then go. Okay, he turns this way, definitely a good moment. But on the flip side, let's say they were a little bit like this. Then there is this, and this situation is not man-man yet. He needs to do a double job. He needs to cut the line here, because if he plays there, okay, now there's no way out for them. So that's the middle. Lower, there is then other principles again, because it's zonal, but that's here how we need to defend the box, and that's where we have other principles for that, how we defend the box. For example, when the cross is from here to this side, and they cross it, our first centre back need to be zonal. You know, he can't be there, he can't be there, he can't be there. If the ball is there, I want him around the first post, nothing under him, and then these two are zonal to start with, and then knocking on to man, for example. And then the 6 could be out here. If not that, we need the 8 to cut back. And if we do that well, it's very difficult for the opponents to score. It sounds like we never concede. We do sometimes.
Well, people say the game's simple, but I tell you what, there's a lot going on. I think, is that something you think that people forget? The amount of decisions and the complexity of football at this level?
I think it's a balance, because we have a lot of principles and guidelines for the players, and you don't want to see all the animations and the playbook we have. It's huge. But the way I need to present it to the players need to be simple. Not because they don't understand it, but there's a lot of things going on, and they also needs that little feeling.
Yeah.
Or they, as we call it, they need to take a football decision on the pitch, because there's guidelines, but there's so many situations where they need to think, okay, do a step, or do I do like this, or when is that we jump and do. But the more principle and guidelines we can give them, the more structure, then I believe in that structure, they can be more creative.
Speaking of creativity, in terms of shots and where you take your shots, Brentford had the closest to goal in terms of yards from their shots, 15.6 last season. I was wondering, is that more about getting players in the box? What's your principle when it comes to where you want to have your shots as an attacking team?
So in general, we are quite big on shot location. For example, a good example, I just spoke to Fabio Carvalho this morning, and I showed him some clips from the last game. Very talented young player.
Yes.
Big belief in him. So creative. And there's stuff I will never tell him, because it's his decision on the pitch. And he needs to try things, and you need to give him the license to do that. But there's a few things. So if you finish outside the box, if you finish from here, pure stats behind it, a probability is very unlikely that you score.
Right.
You also you play football?
You haven't seen me shoot.
Do you play football?
Yes.
Sometimes, yeah. And we've all been there where we take that touch and we want to smash it to the top corner. And the pictures are in our head is that we hit it perfectly, perfect connection, little bend on it, top corner.
You have seen me play then, Tom.
Yes, but how often does it happen?
Less common than that.
Same with me, I need to say. But anyway, so we talk a lot about make the chance bigger. But of course, they need to have that little bit of feeling because it's also about that. Sometimes we need to shoot, and you get the crowd going, and there's so many things to it.
Yeah.
But if you're coming inside here and you're finishing from 26 yards, a little bit out of balance with your left foot and your right footed, probably an even worse decision. So that I showed him, and I said, if you are in the cut here on your right foot, in balance, shoot every time. You got a wonderful shot. So, but he had a situation where he came in on his left, and then, it was terrible. Then in training today, he was in this situation, right foot, top corner. You're always allowed here, okay? No, so that's one thing. So in terms of strategy and all that, we work a lot on making the chance big, but also work a lot on crosses and having enough players in the box. And we are actually quite high. I was a little bit angry after the West Ham game, because we were lower in terms of players in the box than normal, and we need to get enough players in there.
And that comes back to the principles, right?
And then come back to the principles.
Yeah. I'd love to talk a little bit more about Fabio Carvalho, because on FC25, his vision is 71. He's such an exciting player. How have you been surprised by him in terms of being able to see him day in, day out?
That's low. Have you seen him play?
Well, you certainly have, and that's what I kind of wanted to ask. Yeah. I have seen him play.
Yeah.
He is so exciting.
It surprised maybe, not a big word. I've just been, how can you say, reassured that the things we saw, and that he's a very good player. Sometimes it can happen that they're not as good as we thought when they're training, but definitely not with Fabio. Great personality in terms of top character for the group, really working hard. And now it's just about more training, more minutes, get to know his teammates, because it's relationships. So for example, a little bit we talk about when we talk about relationships. So for example, Kevin Schade, what is his score on speed?
Speed is 94. He's got wheels.
Yeah, he got wheels. And he's rapid. So for example, the other day in training, Fabio is on it here, so there's space to run in, and Kevin played on the right side. So he got it. And Fabio is a player that wants to, get the ball, and he likes to, of course, look for in behind. Also like the little connection, and then go again. And Kevin, he just came a little bit short and then went behind, because that's obviously his strength. Right. And Fabio, he played it short. That I took on the pitch, and I also showed it to him. And then I take the two of them together, because they need to find out that connection.
Yeah.
I can try to drill it, but they need the relationship between them. They need to talk. They need to help each other and understand how do they play each other good. He's fantastic to put the ball in behind. Yeah. He's fantastic to run in behind. So why are they playing short? Okay. So I showed that, and then in a game against West Ham, he just dropped down a little bit here. Kevin was here, timed his wrong badly, so he was offside. He tried it. The ball was not perfect. But I like the intention. Exactly. Yeah. So that clip, of course, I showed to them today.
Okay, next scenario we've got is playing against a low block. When it came to crosses, 106 successful crosses for Brentford last season. That is double Sheffield United, it's double Chelsea, and it's double Manchester United. It was clearly a weapon for you with this Brentford side. Explain to me how you focus on crosses and creating chances from them.
I think you need to have different strategies to try to make breakthroughs. I think you can't only rely on one. So for example, clearly, let's say transitions or balls in behind or combination through. But against a low block, there's not much space to do a through ball. There's not much space to do a combination, but of course you still need to look into it. So in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been big and big on crosses. I just think that that's such an important thing. And then we work on different ways to work it. So if we try to speak about the best areas. So for example, if you can cross from this area, we know that De Bruyne won. Back in the day, Eriksen for Dele Alli.
Was Trippier likes that one as well.
Exactly, yeah. I think that's a fantastic cross, either outswing or in swing.
Just to explain to me, why is that so much better than that?
A couple of things. You're closer to the goal, so there's a bigger probability for you to be more precise. And I think here you can really just lift it into the different.
It's teasing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Different gaps. So we try to work that. But we either create 1v1s, classic going on the outside, or here inside cut and the in swing, give and go, runs in the half space, ball under. And then another thing where we talked a lot about, if you play, you run, he's not there, and then you commit, and then you put that soft set, and then you run to it and try to cross it. And then the final bit in the box, we need to hit the gaps. That's the biggest thing for me. On the last line, and make sure we are close enough.
So when you say hit the gaps, you don't mean in terms of the pass, you mean the players in between?
Yeah. So the pass, it will be perfect, but it's difficult to put it on the spot. Sure. I know you can, but
sure.
I know it's difficult to.
You're watching clips?
Yeah, watch clips. Yeah. But it's if you're in these gaps, you have 3 possibilities. You hit it. Plus, it's also closer to the goal. And then the next thing, sometimes we join in with an extra fullback. Sometimes he's joining in as well. So we have 4 players in the box in these situations. And a lot of times, it's not the perfect header. It's maybe a bad clearance. It dropped down, you land on it, and you put it in.
I'm going to give you some names, and then I want to let you tell me who is the best crosser of a ball at Brentford. So we've got Mbeumo, he's got 77 for crossing. We've got Hickey, 74. Avissa, 72. Lewis Potter, 71. Schade, 68. Henry, 68, and Damsgaard, 63 for crossing. Who would you say is the best crosser of the ball?
The one who's not there, Matthias Jensen.
Of course.
Yeah.
Got that again, guys. I got that again.
You want to start again? Or?
Okay, can we get done for that as well? You see it on your screen now.
Oh, yeah.
So the final scenario, Thomas, is you're playing against a team that is mid-table, but they've got that one player who's just a little bit special. In FC 25, you've got Abir Eze with a rating of 81, Jared Bowen with a rating of 82. What do you do in terms of your setup, in terms of focusing on maybe one player more than someone else, or is it just always about the principal and the team?
It's mainly about the principal and the team. Let's say Bowen. He's a fantastic player, and we saw that last year where he was a hat-trick against us. We lost 4-2, so full of praise to him. But it could be any player, let's say a winger type. Then if we know he's by far the best player, then we tend, if the organization is to it, to double up on him. Of course, he can play other players that then will give an opportunity, but if we know his crosses are better than anyone else in the team, then if we put it to him in a slightly worse position, then hopefully we are in a better position to avoid a goal.
Right.
So that's what we do against a key player like that. If it's a 6 or a playmaker that drops down in these situations, then we tend to get closer to them. Like, okay, he's on the ball, close him down.
Right.
Because
sorry, not before he's got the ball.
that's impossible. They are so good.
Good.
Yeah, it's just we can do it a few times, but the best they're so good. We want others on the ball than him.
And when you say so good, that movement will, I think, to many feel like, you know, the players just sort of trotting about. But is that the difference a lot of the time in the midfield area? Is their movement off the ball?
The key top players for any team that dictates the game, they are so good to find space. Then they find the space there. There's a little bit of a distance there, then just cut, boom, a ball in behind. So, or they do the perfect crosses. So there can be mid-table team, it could be one of the top 6 teams. There are maybe 5 top players. How do we close down all of them?
Yeah.
But then I try to find the most important one I think we need to close down, and then we try to do that.
Massive thank you to EA Sports FC, but huge thank you to you, Thomas. That was
Pleasure.
enlightening.
Very pleasure.
At the highest degree. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
My mind has been blown. So good.